Yet there remains concern on Tyneside of the Magpies' disappointing transfer window so far, during which only Martin Dubravka has arrived as a permanent signing. Transfer-listed players such as Chancel Mbemba and Matt Sells remain on United's book too, while Mikel Merino is closing in on an exit following confirmation of his release clause, and Alexander Mitrovic is attracting interest, having impressed at the World Cup in Russia. With all that in mind, we asked you to send in your queries, which NUFC writer Chris Wow answered in our live blog. Newcastle United owner Mike Ashley, image, Getty Images Europe. Here's how the Q. Do you think any shock players could still leave to fund better incomings? Maybe Christian Otsu or Matt Ritchie. I would not rule anything in or anything out. Transfer windows throw up some bizarre scenarios, and sometimes things you never envisaged happening come to fruition. On saying that, I have had no indication that Otsu or Ritchie, or indeed any other member of the first-team squad who has not been written about being surplus to requirements, are being considered for sale. But there is always the chance a club comes in with a decent offer for a first-team player, and Benitez may decide he can reinvest the money in his squad. Given the lack of activity on incomings so far, however, it could be a risky strategy to do that. Benitez may gain additional funds, but he would also need to sign another player on top of the half a dozen or so he already wants. The potential Ritchie-Josh King swap deal that was mooted over the weekend sounded to me like something which came from the AFC Bournemouth end, because I don't see Benitez wanting to sell one of the most experienced and influential members of his first-team squad. Stranger things have happened though, I suppose. Where is the rest of the money? Where is our TV money? Where is our sponsor money? Where our 10th place prize money? I can only theorize to a certain extent, I'm afraid, as I have not seen this year's books. But judging on the accounts for the 2016-17 campaign, seemingly Newcastle are still being negatively affected by their season in the Championship. The Magpies received more than £123 million in prize money from the Premier League last season, and once other revenue streams are taken into account, they probably had a turnover of about £160 million in 2017-18. Again, these are figures I am deducing, other than the £123 million which was confirmed by the Premier League. But their wage bill remains inflated. Newcastle spent a net £46 million on transfers last season, and they were also covering the huge losses of the season before. The key part of the two statements Mike Ashley has released in each of the past 2 summers is that Benitez can spend every penny the club generates. Ashley is unwilling to put any additional funds into the club in the short term, so Newcastle are having to use the money they have at their disposal at the moment, which, given the losses and Premier League level budget which has been maintained throughout, does not leave too much disposable income to spend on transfers. Newcastle spent around £40 million last summer, which just so happens to be the amount they received as a lump sum from the Premier League last July. The same will probably be true this summer. Once the first lump sum for the 2018-19 campaign arrives in United's bank account next month, which is between £40 million and £50 million, we will probably see greater movement from Newcastle in the market. It is a frustrating strategy, but it seems to be the way United are approaching things. Rafa Benitez, image, Getty Images Europe. If as reported the next installment of the TV money is approximately £125 million, so why is Rafa only getting a restricted budget when the club make astronomical amounts from TV income? My understanding is that the next lump sum payment Newcastle United will receive from the Premier League is between £40 million and £50 million. I think the £125 million figure you're quoting is actually the roughly £123 million Newcastle earned from the Premier League across the entire 2017-18 campaign. Although top-flight clubs receive smaller monthly payments across the course of the campaign, of roughly £2 million to £4 million, they are given a lump sum during both transfer windows. The aim of this is to encourage transfer activity during the height of the window. Unless things have changed between last season and the upcoming one, and I have not been told they have, then Newcastle should receive the next substantial lump sum by mid-July, meaning it could drop into their bank account any time from now. Alexander Mitrovic of Fulham. Image, Getty Images Europe. Q. Mitrovic surely deserves a second chance. Why won't Rafa give him it? Has Rafa let him down in terms of mismanagement? I do fully understand why a certain section of fans simply do not see why Rafa Benitez does not seem to fancy Alexander Mitrovic. His 12 goals in 17 appearances for Fulham, as well as his encouraging performances for Serbia at the World Cup, give the impression that Newcastle may already the striker Benitez has sought at the club. But the 23-year-old failed to make a Premier League start during the first half of 2017-18, and Benitez has watched him closely over a more than two-year period. Seemingly Mitrovic is simply not a Benitez player. The Spaniard struggles to trust the forward, both in terms of discipline and when it comes to enacting a game plan, and the striker is also one of United's most saleable assets this summer. If Newcastle can get their £20 million plus asking price for Mitrovic, that will give Benitez money which he can reinvest into his squad, both on a striker and potentially other players too. The only way I can see Mitrovic staying is if Benitez comes to the conclusion he cannot sign another forward this summer and so keeps the Serbian as backup. Do I think Mitrovic has been mismanaged by Benitez? Perhaps he has not been given the opportunities of others, but Benitez points to statistics and work ethic on the training ground to justify Mitrovic's lack of starts. I just think this is a case of a striker and a manager seemingly not being compatible. Goalkeeper Matt Sells. Image, Newcastle United. Q. Any sign of any incomings and good news coming anytime soon for us fans? Seems like nothing is happening. I'm afraid I don't have any good news for you on that front. Benitez being back on Tyneside and up at St James's Park this week is a positive sign, because it shows the Spaniard is still trying to push the hierarchy to complete deals. However, I have had no indication that a breakthrough is necessarily imminent, and United are still yet to launch a cash bid for a player. Dozens of inquiries have been made though, and hopefully some firm movement should arrive soon. Over the course of the past two summers' windows, Newcastle have also been good at keeping some of their deals quiet until just before they happen too, with Matt Sells, Javier Manquillo and Mikel Merino springing to mind as targets who only leaked out just before their deals were completed. Maybe that can provide you with a little bit of comfort. We may not have had word that an incoming deal is imminent, but Newcastle could complete a move on the quiet. I'm sorry I can't provide a more positive answer than that. Q. How can we have been linked with over 20 players but not yet lodged a bid? Every transfer window Newcastle get linked with scores of players, and 20 is certainly a conservative estimate so far this summer. I'd say it's probably closer to 50. In terms of where these links come from, they arise from a variety of different places. Sometimes agents want to drum up interest in their client and so claim Newcastle are interested in their player. On other occasions Newcastle may have scouted a player but subsequently decided they did not think they were worth pursuing. But in the majority of cases it is usually due to Newcastle having inquired about a player, be it officially or informally, and this is because they want to get an idea of general prices in the current market. As has been mentioned before, Benitez has a 50-strong list of potential players for every position, covering a variety of price ranges. Are they all targets? In one sense you can say yes, because they have been mentioned in recruitment meetings and reports on them will have been sought. But that does not always mean Newcastle have made an actual official approach for more than 90% of those players. My understanding is that this summer Newcastle have made dozens of inquiries about players, but as of yet they have no launched a cash bid, though they have told Chelsea they would take either Kennedy or Ruben Loftus-Cheek on loan if either is available. Nicola Jorgensen, Image, Getty Images Europe, Q. Do you think NUFC will break their record this summer, or will it be more penny-pinching and bargain buys? Surely there is money to be spent. A. If Newcastle are to sign a proven, top-level striker on a permanent basis this summer, they will almost certainly have to break their 13-year-old transfer record, unless they bring in a player who has struggled for game time or with persistent injury problems. Whether Newcastle actually do that is another matter entirely. The Magpies could have signed Nicola Jorgensen from Feyenoord for a club record fee in January, and Benitez wanted to, but the Magpies were unwilling to meet the Dutch outfit's asking price. United have been quoted prices north of £20 million for a whole host of strikers this summer, including Hoffenheim's Andre Krummerich, and as of yet have not shown a willingness to pay such a figure. Given that £20 million would also represent nearly half of Benitez's expected budget before player sales, it is understandable to an extent why Newcastle would be so hesitant to pay such figures. That is why Solomon Rondon's £16.5 million release clause at West Bromwich Albion seemed attractive to Benitez earlier in the window, but once agent fees and other payments are taken into account, even that deal balloons and is likely to prove beyond Newcastle's apparently modest summer budget. I've skirted around the issue a little here, which I acknowledge, but if you push me I'd say I'm skeptical that Newcastle will break their record. I think they should given the current market, but I still have my reservations as to whether they will. Mike Ashley, Sports Direct and Newcastle United owner with PR consultant Keith Bishop, Image, Andy Senning, Daily Mirror, Q. There was some news about other potential buyers. What was that about? Just a PR stunt from Keith Bishop to try and start a bidding war? Is there any movement of any kind on a potential takeover? A. There have undoubtedly been some PR stunts along the way with the takeover situation, with some of the claims made from all sides involved proving to be a little outlandish. But my understanding is that there have been interested parties aside from Amanda Staveley and PCP Capital Partners Limited. That does not mean any have shown the inclination to actually buy the club, but they have expressed tentative interest. The last I heard, Mike Ashley was attempting to drum up interest in the USA in May, but there hasn't been any whispers of any progress on that front. His reported £400 million price tag, I struggle to see who realistically is going to pay that for Newcastle at the moment, even if Ashley is willing to take payments in installments. As we've said all along, successful takeovers tend to happen quickly and quietly, and they are usually close to completion before word leaks out, just as happened when Ashley bought Newcastle in 2007. At this stage haven't had any indication that there's been any movement on a potential takeover, so I'm working on the assumption Ashley will be owner for the medium term. Q. Have United made any bids for loan players? A. It depends how you define bid. Newcastle have expressed interest in taking players on loan, yes. For a start, Benitez has told Chelsea he would like Kennedy or Ruben Loftus-Cheek next season, and, if he can't lure either of those on loan, he'd be keen for another Blues player, such as Casey Palmer, in a temporary deal instead. Benitez has also inquired to some of the Premier League's other top 6 sides to make sure he is informed of any players who may become available for loan, too. Newcastle can sign a maximum of 2 players on loan from Premier League sides, but only 1 per club. They can, however, sign an unlimited number of players on loan from foreign clubs, and I have heard whispers that Newcastle have looked at a couple of players in La Liga who could be available on loan. I'd be surprised if Newcastle did not sign at least 1 player on loan this summer, and I think we'll probably see 2 or 3 arrive on temporary deals.